Hi, hey, hello. So we're gonna have a dragon moment. I'm currently reading Onyx Storm. We'll get to that in just a sec. And so I thought it could be fun to make this a whole dragon-centered vlog. I do have one other dragon book, the audiobook for one other dragon book checked out from the library, so I know I need to get to that because I need to get to that before it's returned to the library. So that book is A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. And I know this is historical, London 1920s kind of vibe, involves dragons obviously, and involves language. Again, obvious from the title, but I think language plays a huge role in this. Not exactly sure, not really recalling how. Are they translators? There's a secret hidden dragon language, whatever. Anyway, I think this is going to be a really cool time. So very excited about this one. So I think that'll be the next one I read for this vlog, just again, since I need to return the audiobook. But I want to finish Onyx Storm first. So that'll be priority number one. And then I do have a couple of other options. So I've got The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song. And so this is a cool option as well. Gorgeous, gorgeous cover here. And then if I am ready to tackle the beast, and I honestly might be, because I think I could be in the mood for a nice, long, interesting, complex political fantasy, I might tackle A Day of Fallen Night. And the good part about this one is, yes, it is a companion, and so it would allow me to actually finish this series, but since it's a companion, you know, it's not like a traditional series where it's harder and harder to talk about the series as it goes on. I can just straight up talk about my feelings about this one and talk about bits of the plot and like actually talk a little bit more about what's going on and how I'm feeling about it than maybe for a traditional part of a series. So if we are ready to tackle the beast, that might happen in this vlog. We'll see, because if you watched my February TBR, there's a lot on deck that I would like to get to. So we'll see if I have time to work on that one. So Onyx Storm, yes, I am more than a quarter, but not quite a third of the way through at this point. I'm listening to the audiobook. I did not try to fight for a physical copy. I'm just gonna order the Fairy Loot edition, and since I have the first two S Fairy Loot editions, I just thought it would be good. Like, I don't need multiple copies, and I thought it would be good to just continue on getting the Fairy Loot edition. Since I did get the second one, I think the people who received the second one should get first access to trying to get the third one. So I think I should have a good shot of being able to order that from Fairy Loot. So I will just go that route for a physical copy, so I can also avoid fighting everyone else for a physical copy at various bookstores right now. So I think the sale of that one actually is going to be happening in a couple of days, so that's pretty fun, but it won't get here for a while. But I did want to go ahead and listen to the audiobook because I was excited, and I did happen to catch the audiobooks as they were coming on to I have access to a few different libraries based on some library agreements in the area. So I do have access to a few different libraries, and I was waiting to see when they would come on, and I was able to catch them as they were coming on. And one of the libraries actually put a lot of copies, or stocked a lot of copies of the audiobook, which is really exciting. So I was able to actually snag one right away, which is really cool. So I didn't even need to use a credit for it. So again, about a quarter of the way through, more than a quarter of the way through. So far, very positive thoughts. We're picking up right where, and again, this is not going to be spoilery. Don't worry, I'm not gonna talk specifics. I'm mostly just gonna talk high level feelings, vibes, that sort of thing. So we're picking up right where we left off after Iron Flame, and of course, if you recall that ending, though. So we're picking up right where we left off, pretty much, and I did struggle a little bit with the first half of Iron Flame. Just thought was a little bit slower and more repetitive than other parts of that Fourth Wing was, and then the second half of Iron Flame was. But I not having that feeling about the first part of Onyx Storm so far. I think we're jumping right into the action. For like based on things going on, where that's really the focus for a lot of our characters at the moment. Is we need to jump back into that politics. We need to focus on, you know, some of the political things happening, some of the threats that are going on, and making sure that we're addressing those. So it's definitely been quite action packed for the first part of it here. Slowing down very, very slightly, and we're starting to get, or we kind of know, I think at this point, where some things about the rest of the story are going. We need to get some more information about a couple of things, and so we've slowed down just a little bit from some of the initial action sequences, and we're kind of turning to some information seeking. So and she's still at Basgiath, right? So you know, we're following some things at the school. We're trying to get some information on different things. So overall, having a lot of fun with the first third or so. So I'm gonna keep listening, and we'll keep updating this vlog. Hopefully I'll be able to get some more read today and tomorrow, and be able to give a quick check-in tomorrow wherever I am, and then hopefully after that point we'll be able to give a wrap-up clip. And then whenever I can jump into A Language of Dragons, continue on with this vlog. So I will check back in soon with some more thoughts on Onyx Storm, but so far so good. So we need to check in. I meant to check in once again while I was actually reading Onyx Storm, but I have in fact finished Onyx Storm. So we're just gonna wrap up thoughts, and yeah, just forgive me, it's been a stressful time. I'm still stressed, but I at least felt okay enough to check in. Again, if you know what's going on in the federal government right now here in the US, it is absolutely insane and stressful. So just, yeah, I meant to check in, but whatever. Anyway, so I really enjoyed Onyx Storm. Honestly, it was the distraction that I needed during this stressful time. I think I had at least one clip checking in and kind of talking about the start of it, that, you know, we're jumping right back into the action, that for reasons the romance is a little bit less of a focus in this one. You know, it's still there. Like, don't get me wrong, this is still a romantasy series. It's still there. There are still spicy scenes. It just feels less prevalent and less of a focus of the story than it was in Iron Flame. And so I honestly appreciated that. I feel like there was a good balance here. I was enjoying the plot. I think they even, you know, they were traveling quite a bit to, again, get certain information, get a couple of key pieces of information, or at least get some more on a couple of things that were going to help them win the fighting that's going on. And so they're traveling quite a bit, but I think even sometimes traveling stories can get a little bit repetitive and boring, but I was thoroughly entertained. I think the traveling was still really entertaining. We were still going and doing some pretty interesting things at these different places, or things were happening at these different places that I think were just pretty entertaining for me. And so I didn't find the travel area or segment of this boring at all. And yeah, just had a grand time with this one, honestly. And of course, I'm super anxious for the next one. And who knows when that is going to happen. Hopefully in a couple of years, but I'll be sure to do a reread before the next one comes out, because I think it's going to be a while. But I could definitely understand why some people weren't as into this ending as they were the ending for the past couple of books. I can definitely understand. But I am intrigued to continue. I'm excited for the next one to come out. So we do have another dragon book to chat about, because I am about halfway through A Language of Dragons, and I've needed to keep going with this because the hold for the audiobook is about to be due at my library. So I've been making some progress in this one, and I'm loving this one. So the vibes are amazing. So it's historical 1920s London, and like the main difference is that there are dragons, and there's been this kind of, you know, there's been this history with the dragons, there's been this peace agreement, and so there's kind of this careful balance of, or this negotiated peace between dragons and humans. And so we follow our main character Vivian. They're in this peace agreement. There also was kind of set up this class system. And so there's first class, our main character is second class, and then, you know, there's also a third class, and her friend, there's this examination that they all take, and if you fail, you can get demoted. So her friend was second class along with our main character, and then got demoted after failing this test. And it's clear from the beginning that, you know, our main character feels guilty about that something happened and that resulted in her friend failing. Unclear what exactly, but she feels guilt around that. And her friend has been suffering a lot as part of this demotion into the third class. And so her, you know, she's trying to keep going with her life. She's trying to make sure that she and her family don't get demoted. She is studying dragon languages as well as other human languages. She can speak quite a few languages, and she's hoping to get this opportunity. Is it an internship? This opportunity, and you know, someone's coming over to her parents' house, not only to help talk about her mother's research into dragon languages, but also about this internship opportunity. Our main character wants to show, you know, this person her portfolio, and then hopefully kind of help her get into that program. And instead, her parents end up being arrested for being part of this rebel group, and her, you know, our main character is very confused. She had no idea that any of that was going on. You know, she is denying it, saying they would never do that. But you know, they've been arrested along with her uncle, and her cousin is also in trouble. So it's basically her and her sister. She needs to help look after her sister, but she actually decides to have someone else look after her sister while she tries to go and make sure that the prime minister doesn't get the evidence that was collected that might, you know, indicate that her parents are part of this rebel group. She's hoping to destroy that evidence, and in that process is arrested herself, but given an offer to have a job helping the war effort. And because now there are these increased tensions, and so she's given an opportunity to help the war effort, and if she succeeds in helping, then it's promised that her family will be let go. And there's also potential opportunity for her friend that had been demoted to be brought back to the second class. And so she's trying to focus on this, and her tasks, I won't talk too much about it because I think that's kind of all about the setup I want to talk about. But, you know, her tasks involve language, which is why she was brought in. And yeah, so that's kind of all I want to say, but I'm adoring this. I'm adoring the setting, the vibes, the characters. Our main character is very naive, and she is trying to figure out who or what to trust, and has trusted the system that has been put in place, and trusted this peace treaty, and trusted people in power. You know, had been taught to trust all of those things, and, you know, very naively has, and doesn't understand, you know, what's been going on around her, or what's been going on in other places. And so she's needing to readjust and figure out what she believes, if anything that she's believed is true, and who or what she can trust and figure out what she should do. And so she's kind of in the middle of this job and, trying to navigate that, trying to make sure that she can help her family and help her friend. And so I'm loving it. Like, some of these side characters are pretty interesting. I'm just loving, again, the vibes, the worlds, the dragons, and the communication that humans have with dragons. I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying the discussions of language and how dragon languages have come to be and why that's important. I'm just finding that all really interesting. So I'm thoroughly enjoying. But yeah, I'll come back once I have read more. So here to check in because I have finished A Language of Dragons. I really enjoyed this one. I love the focus on language and what she was doing with language. I loved the interactions with the dragons. I thought the politics was super fun. I just had a great time with this one. So just wanted to give a super quick update now that I have finished it. I don't want to say too much more, but our character does a bit of growing. Of course, she's still very naive and stubborn throughout most of this, which I'm sure will annoy some people. But, she does grow, takes a long time, and sometimes you just want to yell at her and shake her for being so naive, but, but yeah, just wanted to give quick wrap-up thoughts. And it'll be a minute before I get to the next book for this one, but I think I'm gonna do The Night Ends with Fire a little bit later this month. So I will check in once I've started that. So realizing as I'm editing these clips that I had just mentioned that I was gonna be reading The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song, realized I never did a clip for it. I have read another dragon book, and those clips will be in a second, but I wanted to just go ahead and pop in a quick mention of this because that's what I last mentioned, and I have in fact read it, but just for some reason never filmed the clip. So here, this is a Mulan retelling, and I really enjoyed this one. We're following Mei Len, and her father is addicted to opium, not really in the best place to be a great dad. He's concerned about her marriage prospects and is trying to get her married off. She realizes the person that she is intended for through that arrangement is not a good person. She decides to take matter into her own hands and join the army in her father's stead. There's been a summons and she's joining in his stead on behalf of their family, of course disguised as a man. And it's going through training, war is brewing, there's a dragon spirit that talks to her, so that's a fun element here. And so you have the classic things that you run into in Mulan type retellings of someone being disguised and needing to hide who they are. War is brewing, and so there's a lot going on. And yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but I just love that I love the writing, I love the characters here. I just felt like this was a really fun, fresh Mulan retelling, and I'm very excited to see where things go in the next one. We'll definitely be continuing on in this series. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. If you think you could enjoy a Mulan retelling, I would highly recommend picking this one up. So I'll just leave it brief because it has been a minute since I read this one, so some of the details are definitely fading from my memory, but I wanted to give a quick mention since I just mentioned it, and then we'll continue on to the next book. So I have been reading another dragon book, about halfway through I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle. This has been so fun so far. And we're following Robert. Robert is a dragon exterminator. He doesn't want to be. He inherited this job from his father who has passed away. And dragons are kind of seen as pests in this world, but he doesn't really see them as such. He kind of likes dragons and doesn't think they should be exterminated, so doesn't really love his job. And he is just trying to keep things going and make ends meet for his family. He takes care of his mother, his twin siblings, and so he's trying to make sure that he continues work and helps take care of them. The royal family approaches, and the castle hasn't really been well taken care of, but the princess is trying to find a suitor. They want to make sure that the dragon infestation in the castle is taken care of, so they call on Robert to help with that. And in that process, the prince who's vying for this princess's hand in marriage needs to do something to prove that he's worthy of her, and so the idea is for him to go on some sort of quest or journey to kill some big dangerous dragon and then prove that he's worthy of her hand. And so his right hand person basically comes to Robert and basically says, you're going to help him go on this quest and prove that he's worthy of her hand in marriage. And so Robert kind of gets caught up in this whole situation. So at this point, they are starting to go on this quest, and I don't want to say much more than that because I think that's basically where the synopsis leaves off, is that he kind of gets caught up in more than he thinks he's going to get caught up in. But it's just been fun. It's a pretty short, quick read, and it's definitely an old-timey, like, classic fantasy world in terms of the style. Again, there are princes and princesses and castles, so it kind of feels old-timey, and I don't know, I've enjoyed the writing. We're not getting to know the characters too in depth, but it's just been fun and cute and charming, and I've been having a good time with it. So I'm gonna keep going with that one. I don't think it'll take a ton of time. I also appreciate that Travis Baldree has blurbed this, so that's fun. And so actually he has a lot of high-name people blurbing this. There's Travis Baldree, Neil Gaiman, Patrick Rothfuss, Ursula K. Le Guin, Madeleine L'Engle. Anyway, some big names. So, but yeah, it's been fun. It's been cute. I will, as I said, finish this. Probably won't take much time. I think this will be the last one I read for this vlog, and then I'll go ahead and try and get this out before too long. It's been a minute since the last dragon book I read, but I don't know why. I just wanted to get one more in here, and I'm done with my May TBR, and so I'm picking whatever I want for the rest of the month, basically. And so I wanted another dragon book, so the usual. So we'll wrap it up with this one once I have finished I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons. So here to wrap up this vlog, because I have finished I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons. This was just super cute, super nostalgic, super whimsical fairy tale. That's why I say nostalgic, just going back to old classic fairy tale type of storytelling and type of characters. And I think a great example of fairy tale writing and storytelling. It was just so fun. I adored the characters. I really liked our main character, Robert, and him, going through these adventures, just his kindness and bravery, and our princess, she was great. I adored her as a character as well. Even the prince, some of these other characters, kind of not really found family, but they go through some stuff together and kind of bond over this and bond over trying to go get a dragon and the dangers that they encounter along the way. It was just so much fun. And although this is a standalone, I could definitely see something else, like Peter S. Beagle writing a sequel to this someday. I hope that we could get a sequel to this. There are a few threads that could be followed for another book and to kind of continue the story. I hope we get it someday. I think that would be really cool, but definitely had a good time with this one. And so I will wrap it up here. I'm quite sure there will be another dragon vlog at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, because there are a few other dragon books on the list on my shelf over there. So I'm sure there will be another, and I will always I will always have dragon vlogs in the works, I think, because I love dragon books so much. So thanks so much again for joining, and I will leave my Instagram link down below, as well as more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement. Subscribe for more bookish content, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.